Imagine a scenario, a person going through life, everything's good, and all of a sudden, a problem. Not a very unique scenario. I mean, we all been there. We all had that perfect, everything's great, everything's good, and you almost know, yeah, something about to come up, something about to happen, and then it happens, and a problem starts. Now, if you think about it, Bible calls us to be self-sacrificial, almost in a way, giving up our own life for Jesus, Yesha, Yehusha, giving our life to God, giving our life into God's hands. And the Bible tells us about the suffering that follows whenever you start working for God, doing God's will. This suffering, it happens. And there is a fine line between being, yes, I was born again. My life belongs to God, and everything I'm doing, I want to do to God's glory. I want to be guided by the Holy Spirit, and no matter what happens, no matter what comes my way, whatever challenges, those challenges are the opportunities. So going through this suffering, I will rejoice, because that suffering to me is that opportunity to grow in faith, opportunity to open up the new doors for more challenges, more suffering, right? Because if you learn how to find joy in suffering, you develop the discipline that is necessary in order to grow as a person, grow as a Christian, seek and understand more God. And also being like, I'm a sinner. I'll always be a sinner. Nobody can be perfect. Yes, I made this decision, becoming a Christian, and God is punishing me for being a sinner, I guess. And this is just what Christians have to go through. Bible says so. So I suffer. I am a sinner, and I will suffer because I believe in Jesus. Right? You see how there is this contrast between two exactly the same concepts. One is strong, one is bold, confident, direct, optimistic, faithful, strong. I think I already said strong. And another one is, weak, sad, hopeless, really hopeless. Because if that is your outlook, I'm a sinner, it almost serves as an excuse, really. No matter what you do, today you lied to a co-worker, and instead of repenting, learning your lesson from it, now you're just, I'm a sinner, I'll never be perfect. There's a difference between not, because at the end of the day, both of these individuals, right, both of these approaches, they do realize the fact that, yes, we are sinners. We will never be perfect. The only one that was ever perfect was Jesus Christ, Yesha, Yehusha, right? And both of them, they also realize that suffering is just inevitable part of life. if you want to grow and really, even not in faith, in really anything else, if you want to grow in your fitness, in your athleticism, you have to suffer, because every single day you're training, you're putting in that hard work, sweat, injuries. That's suffering. Every single day you're going through this, you're putting yourself through this. And the same thing in business. If you're building something, whether it's from scratch or some kind of foundation, that doesn't matter. If you, every time you want to get to that new step, break a boundary and accomplish more, you have to go through suffering, because you're putting yourself at risk. You're investing finances. You're starting something. It's a little bit scary. You open up a new service. You start a new product, and it's risky. And most of the times, if you done any kind of business ever in your life, you know that most of the times you're starting something up, most of it will fail. That's just part of it. Most of that stuff will fail. There is no such thing as overnight success, as the internet, the media, everybody trying to present it to us these days. The only overnight success is that somehow by grace of God you got saved. That is an overnight success, because you changed like this, 180. You were going one way and now you're going the other way. That is the only example of overnight success. Everything else, there is no such thing. Same thing in education. Hey, if you're, young adult, you most likely, or in college, or been in college, or even going through school, what do you have to do every single day? You have to put in that work, that effort. You're studying, you're learning, and it's boring. Sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes you're studying whatever you don't even know why you're studying. You're like, I will never use that in my life. I'm 35 and I still remember how that feels. Going through my college. No, I'll never need it. Why am I wasting my time on this? Suffering? Well, if you look at what suffering does to a person, and you look what this type of work that you're putting in every single day does to a person, it's the same thing. You're putting the effort, you're putting in sweat, injuries, you're putting yourself out of the comfort zone. And both of the people realize that in both examples. But one is strong, positive, optimistic, confident, and one is weak, almost pathetic, excuses, victim. Think about how much our society struggles these days with that victimhood mentality. We always talk about victimhood mentality. We have the same exact victimhood mentality in our churches. In fact, most of the people are this way. Why? Because again, it's much easier to simply say, I'm a sinner. I will always sin. Basically meaning that, you will always sin. Basically excusing yourself for the rest of your life. Sin. Or saying, some kind of problem in your life. Oh, God punishing me because I'm a Christian and Christians have to suffer. Wow, think about what you just did. If that's what you're doing, I hope you don't. Because if that's what you're doing, if you're excusing yourself from whatever problem in your life, whatever is happening in your life, and you're saying, well, God is punishing me, I deserve to suffer, I'm a sinner, I'm gonna suffer for the rest of suffering, Christians suffer, right? All of this. And you hear it again and again all the time in churches from pastors. I wonder why. Oh, we'll try to get to that. Think about what it does to a person and what a person does to God. Because if I remember correctly, we're supposed to be strong, confident. Faith, it means confidence. And here we are being weak. finding excuses and putting the responsibility on God, because now you're saying, well, I'm a sinner, God is punishing me. Okay, so God's fault. All right. Reminds me of that story of a couple. Let's say two people. Couple. Well, one was Adam and another one was Eve. And how they didn't want to take responsibility for their sin. This is the same thing that we're doing today. So why is it being taught by pastors? You see, there's a difference again between in the approach of teaching the same thing, the same exact thing. Because on one side you can teach like, yes, we are sinners, but we have to work every single day to be as best as we can be to the glory of God. We have to live and put in the effort and work every single day to be as close to Jesus Christ as we can. Although we cannot even come close, but we have to try our best, put in that effort, and find joy in that suffering that comes with it, with that work, those challenges, because they are opportunities. That's one way to present it. And completely the other way, same exact thing, you're presenting, you're all sinners, you're a sinner, and you will always be sinners. Okay, Captain Obvious. And then the same thing with suffering. Don't worry, Betsy. God is punishing you because you're a sinner. We're called for suffering. We have to suffer. This is just what Christians do. We suffer. So if somebody's hurting you, suffer. If your house burned down, suffer. Okay. Why? Why is it presented most of the times in this very dark, very depressing, very much responsibility on God way? Why? Well, think about this. Think what it does to a person. An average person that can care less about seeking God, growing in faith, doing God's work, all they want to do is for themselves. They want to go one day on Sunday to church, sit down, listen to the music, wow, band playing, everything's great, yeah, I love it, entertainment. And then the pastor comes out and they're like motivational speaker, Tony Robinson, they're like all this great, dressed in a nice suit and all of that, right? So you're like, yeah, great, but that problem that I have at work, that problem that I have with my wife, all the messed up things that I've done throughout the week, that still doesn't satisfy me. Like all this music, yeah, it's great, but it doesn't satisfy me. And then finally your pastor right there hits it on the nail. Don't worry, Joe. You're a sinner. And you will always be a sinner. And yeah, all these problems, suffer. It's okay to suffer. We're called to suffer. You see how one side creates somebody who is striving to continue. And another one, it keeps in that comfort bubble. Because that's really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're sitting in that bubble and you're comfortable, and yes, I'm a sinner. Yes, all these problems, but I'm not gonna tackle them because I'm being punished for a reason. Why would I try to solve a problem if I'm called to suffer, right? Because by definition, if you resolve the problem, you take care of the suffering, no more suffering. And no, I don't wanna deal with that problem. And because I don't wanna deal with that problem, I'd rather just justify in my head the fact that we are supposed to suffer as Christians. Think about this. It's exactly the same concept, presented in two completely different ways. And really with this kind of approach, you can sometimes see how our human mind that is a tricky thing. It's a very tricky thing. It's the connection between our spirit and our flesh, right? Our human mind. And obviously from spirit, it comes everything good. It comes our moral values, our principles, our everything the Spirit gives us, the Holy Spirit. I mean, just name whatever, your inspiration, your, everything God, where God is guiding you, coming from the Holy Spirit. And if there is something bad happening, you are there and you want to do the right thing, and you know what is the right thing to do, thanks to the Holy Spirit. And then the mind, because it is connected to the flesh, yes, because it's connected to the spirit, it is able to see all of these righteous things that are happening there, all right? But also because it is connected to the flesh, it wants to keep you comfortable. And the only way to keep you comfortable is to keep you preserved, secure. Even when you have all of these problems, as long as the mind can deny these problems, repress, suppress, intellectualize all of these problems. Sigmund Freud, yes. Defense mechanisms. We are comfortable. So this is the problem that needs to be addressed. This is the problem that needs to be addressed within the Christian community, within our churches. We are followers of Jesus Christ, not because we are victims, comfortable, lazy victims that excuse themselves by saying, I'm a sinner, and also I have to suffer. Guys, I have to suffer. But Joe, you're not even doing anything about the problem that came up. You're not trying to fix your relationship with your wife. You're not trying to do better at work. You keep messing up. You keep lying to your wife. You keep beating your children. You keep procrastinating at work. Well, it's God's punishment. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Wow. Wow.